Dr. Vex Zolan stared at the emergency medical scanner with all three of his eyes widening in horror. The human's vital signs were plummeting faster than a meteor in atmospheric descent. This wasn't supposed to happen. Not on his watch. Not during what should have been a routine diplomatic mission to Earth. "Status report," barked Chief Medical Officer Nexera as she rushed into the medical bay, her green scales glistening under the harsh lights. "The human ambassador is experiencing complete systemic failure," Vex reported, his voice trembling slightly. "I've administered 3 doses of universal stabilizers, but his body is rejecting them. Temperature rising, blood pressure dropping, cellular degradation accelerating." On the examination table lay Samuel Kingston, Earth's newly appointed ambassador to the Galactic Confederation. His skin had taken on an alarming grayish hue, and his breathing came in shallow, labored gasps. "What did you give him?" Nexera demanded, pushing past Vex to examine the readings herself. "Standard protocol for digestive distress," Vex replied. "He complained of stomach pain after the welcome banquet. I assumed it was just incompatibility with some of our food." Nexera's head tentacles twitched with annoyance. "You administered Zentelium? To a human?" Vex's middle eye blinked nervously. The database indicated it was safe for carbon-based life forms. For carbon-based life forms with 3-chambered digestive systems. Nexera snapped. "Humans have a single stomach. You incompetent graduate." Samuel groaned, his body convulsing slightly as his eyes fluttered open. "What's happening to me?" he gasped. "Nothing to worry about, Ambassador," Nexera said, her voice suddenly calm and reassuring. "Just a small reaction to our medication. We're correcting it now." Vex knew better. Zentelium poisoning in single-stomach organisms was nearly always fatal. Even among the most advanced medical stations in the Confederation, survival rates were below 10%, and they were currently 12 light years from the nearest specialized facility. "Prepare detoxification protocols," Nexera ordered, her fingers dancing across the medical console. "And give me the complete human medical database. There must be something we can use." As Vex turned to comply, Samuel's body suddenly arched upward. His face contorted in pain, and a strange gurgling sound emanated from his throat. "He's entering the terminal phase," Nexera said grimly. "Rapid organ shutdown will follow." But instead of the expected collapse, something unexpected happened. Samuel rolled onto his side, and a violent stream of partially digested matter erupted from his mouth, spattering across the pristine floor of the medical bay. Vex recoiled in horror. By the 7 moons, his digestive tract is dissolving. Nexera stepped closer, her scientific curiosity overriding her disgust. "No, that's not internal dissolution. He's expelling the toxins voluntarily." Samuel heaved again, more violently this time. The monitoring equipment showed a subtle but definite improvement in his vital signs. "Impossible," Vex whispered. "No sentient being can survive the expulsion of digestive contents. It's a terminal system failure." Among the 17 major species of the Galactic Confederation, the involuntary expulsion of stomach contents was the final symptom before death. The evolutionary safeguards built into all known advanced species prevented such a catastrophic system failure until the very end, when all other bodily functions were already shutting down. Yet here was Samuel Kingston, deliberately forcing his body to perform what every medical professional in the galaxy considered an act of cellular suicide, and his vital signs were improving. "Get me an analysis of the expelled material," Nexera ordered, her voice tight with concentration. "And prepare a metabolic stabilizer." Vex scanned the vial puddle with a handheld analyzer. "Zentelium concentration, 82%. He's purging the toxin directly." Samuel collapsed back onto the table, sweating profusely but breathing more easily. "Water," he croaked. Vex looked to Nexera for guidance. She nodded, and he quickly fetched a container of purified water. "Small sips only," Nexera instructed as she helped Samuel drink. "Your body has undergone significant trauma. Did I just throw up on your nice clean floor?" Samuel asked weakly, a hint of embarrassment coloring his pale face. "Throw up," Nexera repeated, testing the unfamiliar phrase. "Vomit. Puke." "You know," Samuel made a graphic gesture with his hand from his mouth outward. "You mean the expulsion was intentional?" Vex asked, his scientific mind racing with the implications. Well, yeah, Samuel replied, as if stating the obvious. I felt sick, so I threw up. Basic human response to toxins or bad food. Nexera and Vex exchanged looks of pure astonishment. You can voluntarily purge toxins from your digestive system before they're absorbed? Nexera asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Samuel nodded weakly. Can't everyone? No, Vex said. In fact, no other known sentient species can. What you just did. It's considered a catastrophic system failure. The final stage before death. Samuel managed a weak laugh. Well, I guess humans are weird then. We've been puking since, well, forever. It's not fun, but it keeps us alive. Nexera's scientific mind was already racing ahead. This changes everything we know about emergency toxicology protocols for humans. Vex, document everything. I need to inform the medical council immediately. For the next several hours, while Samuel rested and recovered, the medical team meticulously documented his condition. His vital signs stabilized completely within 6 hours, a recovery rate that would have been impossible for any Confederation species suffering from xanthelium poisoning. When Samuel awoke again, he found Vex hovering anxiously by his bedside. How are you feeling, Ambassador? The alien medic asked. Like I got hit by a truck, Samuel groaned. But better than before. I'm guessing whatever was in that blue sauce at dinner didn't agree with me. It wasn't the sauce, Vex admitted. It was our medication. I made an error in my treatment protocol. I am deeply sorry, Ambassador. Samuel waved a hand dismissively. Hey, no harm done in the end, right? Mistakes happen. Vex's central eye blinked rapidly in confusion. But I nearly killed you. By all medical standards of the Confederation, you should be dead. Well, lucky for both of us that humans are pretty good at getting rid of toxins, Samuel replied with a weak smile. Though I'd appreciate a heads up before you give me any more alien meds. Ambassador, Nexera said as she entered the room, your biological response has caused quite a stir among our medical community. The ability to voluntarily expel toxins before full absorption is revolutionary. Samuel tried to sit up, wincing slightly. Really? It's just throwing up. Kids do it when they eat too much candy. For us, the involuntary expulsion of stomach contents only occurs when the body is already dying, Nexera explained. It's the final release of toxins before cellular collapse, an evolutionarily programmed last resort that rarely saves the patient. Huh, Samuel said thoughtfully. I guess I never considered that other species might not be able to vomit. It's not exactly dinner conversation back home. With your permission, Nexera continued, we'd like to conduct a more thorough study of this mechanism. It could revolutionize emergency care for humans throughout Confederation space. You want to study vomiting? Samuel asked incredulously. It could save countless human lives, Vex added eagerly. Imagine being able to induce this response in cases of poisoning or adverse reactions. Samuel chuckled, then winced at the pain in his abdomen. Well, back on Earth, we already do that. We have medications that induce vomiting, and emergency rooms use stomach pumps for serious cases. Now both aliens stared at him in fascination. You've developed technology specifically to trigger this response? Nexera asked. And medications? Vex added. Samuel nodded. Sure. Been using them for centuries. Nothing fancy by your standards, I'm sure. Nexera's head tentacles rippled with excitement. Ambassador, would you be willing to share this information with our medical database? It would be an invaluable addition to our treatment protocols for humans. Of course, Samuel agreed. Though I'm not a doctor. You'd probably want to consult with some human medical professionals for the details. This is excellent news, Nexera said. The Medical Council has already expressed interest in establishing a formal exchange program specifically focused on these differences in our physiologies. As Nexera left to make arrangements, Vex remained by Samuel's side, still visibly troubled. I truly am sorry for my error, Ambassador, he said quietly. I should have been more thorough in my research. Samuel's expression softened. Look, Vex, right? Mistakes happen, especially when you're dealing with an entirely different species. No hard feelings. Among my people, such a medical error would end a career, Vex admitted. I expected to be removed from service immediately. Well, that seems harsh, Samuel replied. How do you learn if you can't make mistakes? Learning is expected to happen during training, not with actual patients, Vex explained. Especially not with diplomatic representatives. Tell you what, Samuel said. Instead of beating yourself up, why don't you become the expert on human medicine? Turn this mistake into an opportunity. Vex's eyes brightened at the suggestion. I would like that very much, Ambassador. Great. And first lesson, call me Sam. Ambassador sounds way too formal for someone who's seen me puke my guts out. 3 days later, Samuel had fully recovered and was cleared to resume his diplomatic duties. But the incident had sparked a flurry of activity within the Confederation's medical community. A formal request for medical exchange had been sent to Earth, and preparations were underway for a dedicated research initiative. The Medical Council has approved your proposal, Nexera informed Vex as they reviewed data in the lab. You'll be heading the new Human Physiological Response Research Team, with direct access to Earth's medical databases once they're shared. Vex could hardly believe his fortune. Rather than facing disciplinary action, he had been promoted. This is unexpected, he managed. Your mistake led to an important discovery, Nexera replied pragmatically. And the ambassador specifically requested you for the position. He seems to have forgiven your error. Humans are remarkably adaptable, Vex observed. Not just physiologically, but emotionally as well. Indeed. And speaking of the ambassador, he's requested your presence. Apparently Earth is sending a medical delegation earlier than expected. They'll be arriving tomorrow. Vex found Samuel in the station's observation deck, gazing out at the stars. The human looked fully recovered, though he moved with slight caution when he turned to greet the alien doctor. Ah, Vex, there you are. I wanted to give you some advance warning. I pulled some strings, and we've got a medical team coming from Earth tomorrow. Figured we might as well get this knowledge exchange started right away. That's excellent news, Vex said. I've already begun compiling questions and research parameters. Samuel grinned. I bet you have. Just promise me one thing, no more testing toxins on the human ambassador, okay? Vex's scales flushed a deep purple with embarrassment. I assure you, that will never happen again. I'm kidding, Vex. Lighten up, Samuel said, patting the alien awkwardly on what approximated a shoulder. But seriously, the doctor they're sending, Dr. Margaret Chun, she's one of Earth's leading experts on comparative xenobiology. You'll like her. The following day, a small Earth vessel docked with the station. Dr. Margaret Chun was everything Samuel had promised: brilliant, enthusiastic, and fascinated by the medical implications of their discovery. The emetic response has been central to human emergency medicine for centuries, she explained as they gathered in the station's conference room. But we never considered that it might be unique to Earth species. In all our encounters with different life forms, we've never documented a species that can voluntarily expel stomach contents as a survival mechanism, Nexera confirmed. The implications are significant for human care throughout Confederation space. I've brought detailed protocols for treating various poisonings and toxin exposures, Dr. Chen said, transferring data to the station's medical system, including emetics, antiemetics, and gastric lavage procedures. Vex was absolutely fascinated. You even have medications to prevent this response when it's not helpful? The complexity of human medicine is remarkable. We've had a long time to figure it out, Dr. Chen replied with a smile. Now, I understand you have cases of accidental human poisonings that might have been prevented with proper protocols. Over the next few days, Vex worked closely with Dr. Chen, compiling a comprehensive database of human digestive responses and emergency treatments. The work was exhilarating not just for the medical knowledge, but for the cultural exchange as well. What I don't understand, Vex said during one of their research sessions, is why evolution would have eliminated this response in other species if it's so beneficial. Dr. Chun considered this. Well, vomiting does have downsides. It's extremely unpleasant, can cause aspiration pneumonia if stomach contents enter the lungs, and results in fluid and electrolyte loss. For species with different digestive enzymes or stronger detoxification systems, perhaps the costs outweighed the benefits. That makes sense, Vex agreed. Zentrin physiology, for instance, has 3 separate filtration systems for toxins, but none work as quickly as your vomiting response. Evolution is full of trade-offs, Dr. Chen said. What works for one species might be catastrophic for another. Their research took on new urgency when an emergency signal reached the station from a human mining outpost on Kelper 7, a small moon being surveyed for rare minerals. A group of miners had been exposed to an unknown toxin, and the situation was deteriorating rapidly. "We need to respond immediately," Nexera decided after reviewing the transmission. "This is precisely the scenario our new protocols were designed for." "I'll go," Vex volunteered. "With Dr. Chun, if she's willing. We can test our combined approach in a real emergency." Dr. Chun nodded firmly. "Absolutely. We should bring a full kit of human-appropriate emetics and supportive care medications." Samuel insisted on joining the mission as well. "These are my people," he said simply when Nexera questioned the wisdom of risking the ambassador. "And besides, having a human along who isn't a doctor might be useful. I can explain things from a patient's perspective." The journey to Kelper 7 took 6 hours at maximum speed. When they arrived, they found 7 miners in various states of distress. The mining camp's medical officer, Dr. James Torres, was overwhelmed and clearly relieved to see them. "Thank God you're here," he said, leading them quickly to the makeshift infirmary. "We were exploring a new cavern system when they were exposed to some kind of gas. I've tried standard treatments, but they're getting worse by the hour." The miners displayed alarming symptoms: severe abdominal pain, neurological impairment, and progressive respiratory difficulty. 2 were already unconscious. Initial analysis suggests a compound similar to hydrogen sulfide, but with molecular differences I can't identify, Dr. Torres explained, showing them the data on his tablet. Vex examined the readings carefully. "The molecular structure resembles zinterin nerve toxins. Our bodies produce similar compounds naturally, but for humans." He looked up gravely. "This will attack their central nervous system within hours." "Have you tried inducing emesis?" Dr. Chun asked Dr. Torres. "I tried with the first 2 patients, but the response was weak. I was afraid of aspiration, so I switched to activated charcoal, but it doesn't seem to be helping much." Vex and Dr. Chun exchanged looks. "We need to be more aggressive," she said. "If it's like zinterin toxins, it won't bind well to charcoal." "We can use a modified version of our detoxification protocol," Vex suggested, "combined with human emetics for those still conscious enough to respond." They split the patients into 3 groups: those still conscious enough to take oral medications, those requiring more invasive intervention, and the 2 critical cases who were completely unconscious. For the conscious patients, Dr. Chin administered a potent emetic combined with a neural protectant Vex had adapted from zinterin medicine. The results were immediate and dramatic violent vomiting followed by visible improvement in their vital signs. "It's working," Samuel observed, helping one of the miners sit up through the unpleasant but life-saving process. For the semi-conscious patients, they used a combination approach: gastric lavage using equipment from the Earth medical kit, followed by the neural protectant. The 2 critical cases required the most intensive intervention. Using a technique they had developed together, Vex and Dr. Chun performed a modified version of both human and zinterin emergency protocols, directly neutralizing the toxin in the bloodstream, while simultaneously removing as much as possible from the digestive tract. For 12 exhausting hours, they worked non-stop, monitoring and adjusting treatments as the miners' conditions evolved. By the time the crisis passed, all 7 patients were stabilized, though recovery would take days for the most severely affected. "We would have lost at least 3 of them without your combined approach," Dr. Torres said as they finally took a break. "Maybe all of them. I've never seen a toxin like this before." The combination of human emetic responses with zinterin neural protectants was the key, Vex explained. Neither approach alone would have been sufficient. Samuel, who had been helping throughout the crisis, looked exhausted but satisfied. "See what we can accomplish when we share knowledge. This is exactly why I wanted to be an ambassador." Dr. Chun nodded in agreement. The physiological differences between our species could have remained medical curiosities. Instead, they've become the foundation for saving lives. As the miners continued to recover over the next few days, Vex meticulously documented every aspect of their treatment and response. This real-world application of their research would be invaluable for refining protocols throughout Confederation space. On their return journey to the station, Samuel found Vex in the ship's small observation lounge, staring thoughtfully at the stars. "Credit for your thoughts?" Samuel asked, sitting down beside the alien doctor. I was just reflecting on how differently this might have ended, Vex admitted. If you hadn't demonstrated your species' ability to expel toxins that day in my medical bay, we wouldn't have had the protocols in place to save those miners. Sometimes good things come from bad situations, Samuel said with a shrug. Though I'm not eager to repeat the experience. What I find most remarkable, Vex continued, is how quickly we adapted our understanding. For generations, my people have viewed the expulsion of stomach contents as the final, failing act of a dying body. To discover it's a routine survival mechanism in humans. It challenges everything we thought we knew. That's the beauty of science, isn't it? Samuel replied, being willing to change your mind when presented with new evidence. Among my people, such a fundamental shift in understanding would normally take decades to accept. The medical establishment is conservative. Samuel laughed. Trust me, human doctors can be just as stubborn. But when lives are on the line, smart medical professionals adapt quickly, like you did. Vex scales flushed with the alien equivalent of a blush. I simply followed the evidence. Which is exactly what a good doctor should do, Samuel said firmly. When they returned to the station, they found that news of their successful intervention had already spread throughout the Confederation's medical community. Requests for information were pouring in from medical facilities on dozens of worlds with human populations. The Medical Council wants to fast-track the new protocols for immediate distribution, Nexera informed them. And they're recommending both of you for commendations. Dr. Chin smiled. The real reward is knowing those protocols will save lives. But I won't turn down a commendation. There's more, Nexera continued. The Council has approved funding for a permanent human physiological response research center. They want you to co-direct it, Dr. Vex. Vex was stunned. Me? But I'm the one who nearly killed the ambassador with an incorrect treatment. And then you turned that mistake into a breakthrough that saved 7 lives, Nexera countered. That's exactly the kind of thinking the center needs. She's right, you know, Samuel added. Sometimes the biggest discoveries come from the biggest mistakes. What matters is what you do next. 3 months later, the new research center was officially opened on the station. Medical professionals from Earth and various Confederation worlds gathered for the ceremony, eager to contribute to the expanding field of comparative emergency medicine. Samuel, now fully recovered and thriving in his role as ambassador, gave a speech that perfectly captured the spirit of the initiative. When I accepted this position, he told the assembled crowd, I hope to find common ground between our worlds. I never expected that common ground would include my stomach contents. This drew laughter from the human contingent and confused blinking from many of the aliens. But that's the beauty of true cooperation, Samuel continued. We learn from each other's differences as much as from our similarities. What seems like a catastrophic failure in one context might be a life-saving response in another. The key is remaining open to new possibilities. As the center began its work, Vex found himself at the forefront of a medical revolution. The study of human emetic responses had expanded to include numerous other physiological differences between species, each potentially offering new approaches to treatment and care. I've been reviewing your latest research, Samuel said during one of his regular visits to the center. The application of human rapid response healing mechanisms to Zincherin chronic conditions is fascinating. It works both ways, Vex replied enthusiastically. We've adapted Zincherin tissue regeneration techniques for human burn treatment with promising results. All because I threw up on your floor, Samuel said with a grin. A fortunate accident, Vex agreed. You know what humans say, one person's trash is another person's treasure. Vex translator struggled with the idiom, causing his head to tilt in confusion. It means, Samuel explained patiently, that what seems worthless or disgusting to one person might be valuable to another. Ah, Vex said, understanding dawning. Like vomit. Samuel laughed. Exactly like vomit. Though I'd prefer if we found less unpleasant ways to exchange medical knowledge in the future. Indeed, Vex agreed. Though I've learned never to discount any physiological response, no matter how disturbing it initially appears. A year after the incident that started it all, the interspecies medical exchange program had expanded to facilities throughout Confederation space. Dozens of lives had been saved through the new protocols and research was ongoing into other potentially beneficial physiological differences. Vex, now regarded as the foremost expert on human emergency medicine outside of Earth, had just published his comprehensive guide, Emergency Care Protocols for Human Patients, a comprehensive approach to uniquely human physiological responses. The dedication page read simply, "To Ambassador Samuel Kingston, whose unfortunate reaction to improper medication opened new frontiers in interspecies medicine." Samuel found this hilarious when presented with the first copy. "I'll treasure this always," he said, flipping through the extensively detailed medical text. "Though I hope never to need its contents applied to me personally again." "The probability of that has been significantly reduced," Vex assured him. "Every medical facility in Confederation space now has proper protocols for human treatment." "Good to know," Samuel replied, "though I'm still bringing my own snacks to diplomatic dinners, just to be safe." In a final irony, the research center eventually developed a synthetic compound that could safely induce the emetic response in several Confederation species whose physiology could support it but lacked the natural reflex. This breakthrough treatment saved countless lives in cases of poisoning or toxic exposure, creating a medical legacy that extended far beyond human care. And it all began with what Vex had initially considered a catastrophic system failure: the simple, undignified, but remarkably effective human ability to vomit. During a celebration marking the second anniversary of the research center, Dr. Chun raised a toast to the unlikely partnership that had changed interspecies medicine forever. "To differences that become strengths," she said, raising her glass. "And to the reminder that what one species considers a terminal failure might be another species' survival mechanism." "And to Ambassador Kingston's strong stomach," Vex added, attempting human humor, which ironically proved most valuable when emptying itself on my medical bay floor. Everyone laughed, humans and aliens alike united in the understanding that had grown from that single, messy incident, that the path to knowledge often leads through unexpected and sometimes unpleasant territories, but the destination makes the journey worthwhile. As medical knowledge continued to flow between worlds, the story became something of a legend in both human and Confederation medical schools: how a diplomatic mission, a medical error, and a simple bodily function had revolutionized emergency care throughout known space. And somewhere in the official medical archives of the Galactic Confederation, preserved for future generations of healers, was the original incident report, complete with detailed scans of human emetic response that had started it all. A reminder that even in the vast complexity of interstellar medicine, sometimes the most important discoveries happen not through careful planning, but through accidents, mistakes, and the humble, messy reality of how different bodies work. For Samuel, who eventually completed his diplomatic tour and returned to Earth with numerous honors, the experience remained a favorite anecdote at dinner parties, though he was careful never to tell it during the meal itself. And that, he would conclude to amused and slightly horrified guests, is how throwing up saved not only my life, but eventually thousands of others across 17 solar systems. Not bad for a bodily function we typically try to avoid mentioning in polite company.